Don't forget to like and subscribe to Jolie Knots Crochet. Hit share, go ahead and share with your friends, or you can hit that little bell to get notifications when new patterns release. Hi everyone, welcome back to Jolie Knots Crochet. I am Crystal and today we are going to be making this really cool With Love Granny Afghan. This one is created in rounds where the last one was created corner to corner. So getting started on this square, the yarn that we're going to be using today is the Super Saver Ombre by Red Heart. The color here is violet, and this consists of 482 yards. We used 3 skeins of this, almost 3 skeins, just under, and the size that it came out was 44 inches squared with the border. All right. The materials you're going to need today are your yarn, approximately 14 to 1500 yards if you're working for a 44-inch square. If you're working larger, of course, more. We're using a 5.5 millimeter hook. Whatever yarn you choose, go ahead and choose the recommended hook size. Getting started with that, you could either make a magic ring or you can chain 3 and slip stitch. I personally like to make the magic ring, so I'm going to wrap my yarn around my fingers twice, go underneath the first 2, and this is my working yarn connected. So I'm going to pull that through the hook and I'm going to chain to secure it. Now working into my ring, I am going to chain 3, and then I'm going to put 3 double crochets right into that ring. Your chain 3 will count as your first double crochet. From there, we're going to chain 2 for our corner and then put 3 more double crochets. We're going to do that until we have 4 corners total. And then we're going to pull that other line first. For our corner spaces, all of our corner spaces are going to look exactly the same. So what we're going to do once we've finished our last side, we are going to half double crochet into the top of the starting stitch. This half double crochet is going to replace our 2 chain corner. Getting started on round 2, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to work our first 2 double crochets over that half double crochet post. And that's how we're going to start every single round. Slip stitching to the top of the first stitch from your round, and then chaining 1 and working 2 double crochets. Now for this side, we're going to have our 2 double crochets. We are going to double crochet in each of these stitches. So now you should have 5 double crochets, and that brings us to our corner. The way that we're going to work our corner is 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, chain 2,
and 2 more double crochets. And that's what you're going to repeat for each side. So you've got your corner worked, and now we've got these 3 double crochets on the bottom. Double crochet in each of those stitches. And then we're working our corner. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. For our next side, we're working the same thing. 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the previous round stitches, and then working our corner. This will be the last round. This will be the last side of our second round. How we're working our last side is to double crochet 3 stitches and then double crochet 2 into the corner. We've already got our first 2 double crochets that we started with, and so now what we're going to do is half double crochet into the top of our first double crochet. We are joining every round the same exact way. And how this works is it sets us up to work into our corner, and we won't be able to see the slip stitches coming from the side. So you're chaining 1 after that, giving it a little bit of height, and you're working your 2 double crochets in over the half double crochet post. And that's the first part of your corner. Beginning of round 3. Now how we're going to start this round is you've got your 2 half double crochets. Now we are going to work 3 double crochets, 1 into each of the first 3 stitches. Chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and you're going to work 3 more double crochets. Now you have your corner space left. Every corner is the same, working 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now you're going to repeat the first side. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, and then 3 double crochets again onto the last 3, working your corner. And I will meet you back at the beginning where we join our third round. To join every round, you're working 2 double crochets into your last corner space, the corner where we started, and half double crocheting into the first double crochet. And again, that's setting you up to begin the next round. Our round is round 4. So we're chaining 1 and placing 2 double crochets over that half double crochet post. Now, we're double crocheting 3, 1 into the next 3 stitches. You should have 2 stitches left till you get to your chain space. So what we're going to do is chain 1 and place 3 double crochets, which we're going to call granny stitches from now throughout our pattern. Chain 1, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, double crochet into the 3rd stitch, and we should be ending this round with 3 double crochets, one on top of each stitch, and then our corner space, which is always 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now what you're going to do is repeat 3 double crochets, skipping 2, chaining 1, 3 double crochets, chain 1, skip 2, 3 double crochets, working your corner, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Work that along this side, and along this side, and I will meet you right back here to join our 4th round. For round 5, we are going to chain 1. Remember, this is how we're starting every row. 2 double crochets over your half double crochet post, 3 double crochets, one on top of each of the next 3 double crochets, chain 1, skip 2, and double crochet 3 times. Put your granny stitch into the first chain space. Chain 1, skip your granny group, and then granny stitch into the next chain space. Chain 1, skip 2 stitches, double crochet on top of the last 3 double crochets. Corner again is worked the same way, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. That's what you're going to repeat on each side until we get to the beginning. You should have 2 double crochets starting in the corner, 3 double crochets, chain 1, skip 2, granny stitch into your chain space, chain 1, skip your granny group, granny stitch into your last chain space, chain 1, 3 double crochets, and then working your corner. And I will meet you at the beginning of round 5. And here is how I will start for every round to show you the repeat. I'll show you the repeat after your first 2 double crochets, after you've chained, after you've done your last 2 double crochets, half double crochet, join, chain 1, 2 double crochets. You're going to do this part on your own, and from now going forward, I will start our rounds with the 2 half double crochets already made, and then show you the repeat for each side, and then you can complete the remaining of the 3 sides. For round 5, we've got our 2 double crochets. We are going to put 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. We'll chain 1, skip 2 stitches, and granny stitch into the first chain space. In this row, you're going to have 3 granny stitches. We're going to do every row like this, just growing our granny stitch groups until we get to 5 granny stitch groups. And that is all you will add in between is your chain 1, granny stitch into the chain space. chain 1, skipping 2 stitches, and double crocheting into the last 3 stitches. And then you will always have your corner space. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets again right into that corner. And that is your repeat for each round, omitting the corner for your last round, your last side, and then half double crochet join. So we are on row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to let you complete round 5, 6, and 7. Round 6, we're going to have 4 granny stitches. Round 7, we're going to have 5 granny stitches. So it's going to grow just exactly like this. And what I'm going to do is, all right, here we are at the beginning of round 9. You should have grown your work to round 8 that has 5 granny stitches in each side, all the way around. You should have your first 2 double crochets for round 9, and now we're going to repeat or get started on the repeat for your 9th round. The first thing that we're going to do is, of course, double crochet 3 stitches, just like usual. For this round, we want to start here. So we're going to double crochet 2 more. So you should have a total of 5 double crochets and your 2 double crochets from your starting corner. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Your next stitch should be your chain 1 space. How we're going to work this is we're going to chain 1, double crochet into your chain space, chain 1, granny stitch into the next. And now we're going to chain 1 and granny stitch all the way across until we make it to 4 granny stitches. So the last row was 5 and this row is 4. We're going to have 4 granny stitches with our double crochet, chain 1, and then double crochet right here on the side. So let me show you. We're going to complete this granny, chain 1. This is our last chain space before the last chain space. So it's technically the second to last chain space, and we're going to work our granny. And that should bring us to 4 granny stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to mirror this side now, and we are going to work our double crochet after our chain 1 space, granny, chain 1, double crochet into the last space. Chain 1, double crochet into that next double crochet, and we're going to keep going until we have 5 double crochets. Typically all of the rows that we have started with 3. Round 9 is starting with 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we work our corner space again, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. And once you've completed that, you're going to do your repeat for each round, which I just showed you. 5 double crochets, chain 1, double crochet into the first space, skip your granny, chain 1 granny, chain 1 granny until you have 4 granny stitches. And then you'll chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and 5 double crochets up to your corner. Well, you'll have 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So work that along each side, and I will meet you right back at your last corner. Okay, so here we are at the beginning of row 10. Round 10 is going to have 5 granny stitches across again. And how we're going to make that happen is we are going to double crochet into the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. From there, we're going to chain 1, skip this first chain space, and into the next, put a granny stitch. Now we're going to chain 1, skip 1 granny stitch, and into the next space, put a granny stitch. And we're going to do that 4 times so that we can have 5 granny groups in this round. When you've got your last granny group in, go ahead and chain that 1, skip your double crochet and your chain space, and we're going to put 7 crochets down the side until you get to your corner space. When you get to your corner space, you'll do just as usual with your 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets, and that is going to be what you're going to repeat for each side. All the way until there. So when you come around, you're going to work your way around this side, down this side, down the last side, and I will meet you back at the beginning of the next round. All right, here we are. We've completed round 10, and we're going to be getting started on round 11. Now, round 11 is the last round of our hearts before we start another round of hearts, increasing from 1 heart to 2 hearts. So in order to get started on this round, you should have your 2 double crochets in the corner, and we're going to double crochet 9 stitches all the way up to your first space.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8, 9. Now we're going to put 2 double crochets into the first chain space, chain 1, skip 1 granny group, and then we're going to granny group into the next chain space. From there, we'll chain 1, skip the next granny group, and put 2 double crochets into the next chain space. Now on the top of our next granny stitch, we're going to put 1 double crochet into each double crochet. And then we're going to put 2 double crochets into that chain space. So we should look like this. Chain 1, skip your granny group, and go ahead and put a granny stitch into the next space. Chain 1, skip your granny group, and put 2 double crochets into that last space. We're going to end with 9 double crochets, one on top of each double crochet, and then our corner space. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. So you should have 11 double crochets total up until your chain 2 space after the last piece of your heart. And that's what you're going to continue on each of the rest of the sides. And I will meet you back at the beginning to get started on our second row of grannies. This is what each side should look like. And you've completed one full heart. When we come back and meet here, we'll have all of that completed on each side. And then I'm going to show you how to get started to have 2 hearts. Each increase we will be adding 1. So from here we'll have 1 here, and then we'll go 1, 1, and 1. And I'll show you how to do that. Go ahead and work all the way around. Meet you back at this side. Okay, now we have completed round 11. This is what your heart should look like. You should have 1 heart facing each side. Now getting started on round 12, rounds 12 through 20 are going to be your repeat rows. Each repeat, we're going to be adding a heart. So in order to get started on round 12, you should have your 2 double crochets right there in the corner. And then we are going to double crochet 3. So the beginning of this starting heart should look the same as the beginning of this starting heart. Now we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet into the next stitch. We're going to have 35 double crochets as our setup row in between the hearts. So this is our first one.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, and our 10th double crochet should fall into the first chain space of the heart from the previous round. So that is 10.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23,
24, 25, and your 26th double crochet should fall into the last chain space of the heart from the previous row. 27,
28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33,
34, and 35. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet into the next 3 spaces. You should only have 3 stitches left. That will bring you to your corner space where you are going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. And that will be what you are going to repeat on each side. So you've got your 2 double crochets into the chain space, 5 double crochets total, a chain 1, skip 1, 35 double crochets all the way across, and then your chain 1, skip 1. Now this is a setup row for the beginning of your next heart row. You want to make sure that all of your counts are correct. Your 10th double crochet should fall into this first chain space, and your 26th double crochet should fall into the last chain space. You'll have 35 before your chain 1, skip 1, and again 5 at the end with your chain 2 and your corner space. So that's what you're going to repeat on each side, and I will meet you back at the beginning of your round 13. Okay, here we've completed round 12. Now, round 13 is essentially going to be the same as this first round with the granny groups here, but instead of 35 stitches in between, we're going to reduce our stitch count by 4 per round until we have our 5 granny groups. So let me show you what I mean. We've got our 2 to begin with in the corner space. We are going to double crochet our 3 just like the usual starts. Chain 1, skip 2, and granny stitch. Chain 1, skip 2, granny stitch into that 3rd stitch. Now in this row we had 35 stitches across, and now in this row we're going to have 31. So go ahead and stitch your 31 across. Chain 1, skip 2, granny stitch in your chain space, chain 1, skip 2, and then we'll complete our row out up to the corner. (30) and 31 should leave you with 2 stitches before your last chain space. Chain 1, skip 2, granny. And that's what you're going to complete on each side. So both sides should look the same. You are going to be repeating your heart pattern with a series of double crochets in between. So this is the same thing as here. In your next row, instead of 31 stitches, you're going to have 27 stitches. And each side is going to decrease 2 stitches until you get to 5 granny stitches across. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows into your heart. Right now you've got 2, so you're going to work out the rest of this row all the way around, and then the next 4 rounds. I will meet you back when you have completed 5 granny stitches per heart. You will have at that time 15 stitches in between, and at the same time you'll still have 5 at the beginning and 5 at the end. So go ahead and complete those all the way around, and I will meet you back. Okay, here we are at the beginning of round 18. You should have 5 granny groups to each of your hearts. We have 3 rounds left to complete your heart, and let me show you how to work round 18. Round 18 is going to be really the same as this round right here from this heart, with that series of double crochets in the middle. So we are going to have our 2 starting double crochets, and then we're going to double crochet 5 times. When you get to your chain space here, you are going to chain 1 and place 1 double crochet into that chain space. Chain 1, skip your granny group, and go ahead and place your granny stitch into that space. And in this row we will have 4 granny groups across. now that you've got your 4th granny group, you will chain 1, skip the last granny group, and put a double crochet into the last space, chain 1, double crochet into that first double crochet after your heart. You'll double crochet 15 all the way across, and then you're going to complete this part of the heart just the same as you did this part of the heart. Once you do that, you'll finish out your corner. Do the same thing on each of the next 3 sides, and I will meet you back at the beginning of round 19. Okay, here we are. We have finished up round 18, and we've got rounds 19 and 20 left for our hearts. How we're going to work this one out is we are going to have 7 double crochets before we put our granny stitch into our spaces. This row, we are going back to 5 groups of granny stitches with the 15 double crochets in the middle. So you should have a total of 9 double crochets before your heart, 2 from the corner, and then 7 in sequence. Chain 1, skip your chain space and your double crochet, and you're going to work your granny stitch into that second chain space. Then you'll chain 1, skip a granny group, granny stitch into the next, and like I said, you should have 5 granny stitches total for each heart. Skipping your last double crochet and chain space after your 5th granny stitch. So we've got our 5th one coming in right here. Skipping our double crochet and our last chain space, we're going to granny stitch right into the top of that first double crochet after your chain space. And then you're going to work your 15 double crochets all the way across, and then you're going to repeat this where what we've just finished on this heart. You're going to repeat it here, finishing out with your 9 double crochets, your chain 2 corner, and then you're going to do the same thing on all the remaining sides, and I will meet you back at the beginning of round 20 so we can finish out our heart. All right, here we are on round 20. This is the last round to finish our heart, and we are going to start after our 2 double crochets. We're going to go ahead and put our 9 double crochets to the first space, so you'll have 11 total. Once you get to your first chain space, right here, we're going to put 2 double crochets. Now you're going to chain 1, skip your granny group, and then put a granny group into the next space. Chain 1, skip the next granny group, and into the next chain space we're going to put 2 double crochets. Now we're going to put 1 double crochet on top of each of these double crochets for this next granny group. Right up to that chain space, we're going to put 2 double crochets. Chain 1, skip your granny group, and go ahead and put a granny group into the next chain space. Chain 1, and you should have 1 chain space left, and you're going to go ahead and put 2 double crochets. And that's going to complete this part of your heart. You will have, again, 15 double crochets in between your hearts, and then you'll do your 2 double crochets here just like you did in this chain space. Ending over here with 11 double crochets, chain 2, 11 double crochets down this side, and then repeating on each side. Once you finish that round, we're going to get started on our border. Now, you want to make your blanket bigger, of course. And so what you're going to do is repeat rounds 12 through 20 until you get the sides that you want. Everything is going to be the same, but you're just going to have one more set of 35 double crochets in between your hearts. So you'll have a heart here, here, and on this side. So go ahead and finish up this round. Do your repeats of rounds 12 through 20. And right before we get started on the border, you are going to do 2 extra rounds after the last round of your heart of just double crochets, just full double crochets around. And I will meet you back here for that border. All right, so now that we have completed our 2 full double crochet rounds, the next round we're going to do will be single crochets. So from your corner, you have your half double crochet join. We're going to go ahead and chain 1 and put 1 single crochet into that corner space. And then we're going to single crochet all the way around. And in the corners, we're putting 3 single crochets, no chains, just 3 single crochets. And I will meet you back at the beginning of your single crochet round. Okay, here we are finishing up our single crochet round. When we started this round, we started with 1 single crochet. So now we're going to finish off with 2 because we should have 3 single crochets in each corner. You'll then slip stitch to your first single crochet, pull that nice and tight, and then we're going to slip stitch to the 3rd single crochet. All right, so you want to put a stitch marker in each of your corners. That might be helpful for you. So we've got our slip stitch into our first, our second, and we are going to go 1 more for our 3rd. And now we're going to chain 3. You're going to put 3 double crochets into that same stitch, so that chain 3 is going to count as the double crochet, and you should end up with 4 double crochets into that stitch. Now you're going to chain 2. You are going to skip 4 stitches, and you are going to double crochet into the 5th stitch. Chain 2, 4 double crochets into the next stitch. Now into your next, this is your repeat. So you've got your chain 2, skipping 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, into the 5th, 1 double crochet, chain 2, 4 double crochets into the next stitch. Go ahead and repeat that until the end, until you have 2 or 3 stitches left and you can't put any more repeats. And I will meet you right at that corner, teach you how to work your corner, and then I'll meet you at the beginning of the row. Okay, so after we have finished our last 4 double crochet, we're going to chain 2, and into our corner space here, we're going to put 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then you'll chain 2, skip 1 stitch, and into the next stitch, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and in the next stitch, 4 double crochets. You're going to do that all the way down and around, and I will meet you back at the beginning of the first round of our border, and we will get started on the second row of Drunken Grannies. All right, here we are at the end of our first row of Drunken Grannies. I've done my chain 2, and now into this corner space I'm going to put my 3 single crochets. Chain 2. We are going to skip 1 stitch, and into the stitch right before we put our 4 double crochets, we're going to put 1 double crochet. Chain 2, and now you're going to slip stitch into the top of this chain 3 space. All right, just like that. Now, to begin this row, we're going to chain 5. We are going to skip this 4 double crochet group, skip this first chain space, and now in this next chain space, we're going to be working on top of each of these Drunken Granny groups, okay? The difference with this row is the last row we had 1 double crochet, chain 2, 4 double crochets. This row we're going to have 4 double crochets, chain 2, 1 double crochet. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2, and then 1 more double crochet into the same space. Now you're going to chain 2, this is your repeat, 4 double crochets, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet. You're going to do that all the way down the end. When you get to your corner stitch, when you get to the end of your row, I will meet you here to show you how to work our first corner, and then we'll continue on. All right, so here we are at the end of this row. I'm going to show you how to work your corner. You're going to chain 2 into our middle single crochet. We are going to work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now you'll chain 2, and then you're going to continue working down this side just like you did on this other side. All right, so I am at the end of my second row of grannies. I'm going to chain 2 into my center single crochet. I'm going ahead and putting my last corner, which is 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now I'm going to chain 2, and this is where I started. So into this space here, I'm going to start with 4 double crochets, and now what I'm going to do is half double crochet into the top of the 3rd chain, and that's going to set me up to work on the top of this Drunken Granny here. Okay, so now our next row is really going to be kind of similar to this row. Instead of working in our single crochets, we're working in our chain 2 spaces. So I'm going to chain 3, that's counting as my double crochet, 2 more chains counting as my chain 2 space, and then I'm going to put 4 double crochets right over the post of my half double crochet. And that is the one that had replaced my chain 2 space. So the beginning of your row should look like this. Now chain 2, working on top of our next granny, we're putting 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 4 double crochets. Now you pretty much know what you're doing from here all the way up to the corner. So here's your starting point. 1 double crochet, chain 2, 4 double crochets. It's going to look very similar to this granny stitch, but we're working in the chain space instead of in the single crochets. You're going to work that all the way down until your corner, and in your corner space you're going to have 4 double crochets, 2 chains, and 4 double crochets. Go ahead and work that all the way around, and I will meet you at the beginning, well, at the end of your 3rd row of grannies, and then we'll get started on our last row. Okay, here we are at our last corner space. We've got our last drunken granny in, and we're going to chain 2. We're putting 4 double crochets into our corner space. Chain 2, 4 double crochets. Chain 2, and now we're going to slip stitch to the top of the 3rd chain. Alright, so we have made it, and this is going to be the last round, and it'll be our border round. So how we're going to get started on this round is we are chaining 3, and we're putting fans into each of these chain spaces. And our fans are going to consist of 4 double crochets, picot, so that's chain 3. I put my picots into the top and the side of my double crochet, or the top of my stitch working. A nice slip stitch. And now we're going to put 4 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's what the start of your last round will look like. We're not chaining in between, so we're going to go straight from this fan to the next one. 4 double crochets, picot, and 4 double crochets. You're going to continue that, and I will meet you right back here to show you what the corner will look like and how to finish out your granny with love. Okay, here is what your last corner will look like, and each of the rest of the corners. When you get to the last fan in your row, you're going to put 1 double crochet on top of each of the first 4 double crochets in your corner. Into the chain space, we're going to put 3 double crochets, a picot, and then 3 more double crochets. Now you've got 4 double crochets going down this side, and we're going to put 1 double crochet on top of each of those. And that is what each and every one of your corners should look like. So now, since this is my last corner and I've got my first fan here, to complete it, I'm just going to slip stitch to the top of the 3rd chain. Hold that nice and tight, cut your yarn, weave in your ends, and you have got yourself your Granny with Love blanket in the rounds. Thank you so much for watching this series and this tutorial with me. Hopefully I will be coming out with another play on our granny in the rounds, or straight back and forth. I don't know. We'll see what the inspiration brings me. Thanks for watching.